Trigger warning. This episode contains instances of sexual assault, violence, and touches on deep topics involving mental health and mental health disorders. Listener discretion is advised. What is up, and welcome back to another episode of So There's That. I'm your hostess doing the mostest, Kivanchi, and we are here with Earth Abides episode 5, y'all. So MGM, okay, they surprised us and they dropped both episode 4 and episode 5 on today. Now, I didn't want to combine them because I felt like you really needed to understand the buildup of episode 4. And with episode 5, with the trigger warning that's in there, it's kind of like, okay, let's kind of separate the things that are happening. And I wanted to just bring you all into an immersive experience. Immersive, I guess, listening wise, or if you're watching this YouTube video, just to kind of just separate the mood and the tone of things instead of putting it all into one recap, because the tone and the mood of both of these episodes deserve their own podcast episode. Like, let's just be real. In episode 4 of Predators, we saw that it was a lot of mystery, a lot of beguiling, and just a lot of like gut instinct and really trying to suss out somebody's intentions for things. And so it was like walking into the lion's den all over again, especially because the beginning of the episode, you see Ish coming out of a lion attack and potentially allowing a new lion, a new predator, into their home. Well, with episode 5 titled The Return, I think it's The Return. Yes. And it's 49 minutes. We now know Charlie's intentions for things. And because we now know his intentions, this episode is just a little bit darker, has a couple of darker themes and things going on in here. So yeah, let's just dive right on in. So previously, we already know what happened previously in the episode, but the thing that they wanted to highlight for this episode specifically was the flashback of when we found Evie and evidence of her assault by her father, as was mentioned in the letter that was found on her person. Emma talking to Ish about the daughters that she lost, and how she felt like she couldn't protect them, and then her and Ish's promise to protect the family that they were building and the community that they were building as well. Now, the community, they named the community San Lupo, which means Saint Wolf, and so Lupo is Italian, and in Italian means the wolf. So I thought it was really nice that they named their community after a wolf, because wolves are pack creatures and there is a pack leader, but there's sort of like deference to expertise, if you will, amongst a wolf pack. So the leader is going to be there, they're going to be the head, they're going to make sure everything is good, but the person at the back of the wolf at the back of the pack is typically like your most dangerous. And so you have Ish at the head of the wolf pack, and then you have Emma at the back of the wolf pack, and they're protecting everybody within their pack. And what I love about it is that if you don't really know about wolves, if you don't really know about their behaviors and how they build community, then you would just think like, oh, I'm going to this place like San Lupo. But there's a double meaning behind this, because we know, the audience knows, that this community goes up for their people. They're not afraid to end someone or something's life if it threatens their livelihood. And it's not that they're a group of killers, but they're a pack and they have to protect their pack. So where are we now? It's kumbaya time. Everybody's having a party. We're celebrating. We're drinking water. There's a well. Ish is just kind of like off to the side watching everybody be excited. And Emma's having a conversation with Perry. And she's like, okay, well, where are you going to go next? And Perry just kind of looks at Charlie, and she looks back at Emma, and she's like, well, you know, that's not really my decision. Wherever Charlie takes us, like, that's where we're going to go. And Emma's like, but I didn't ask Charlie. I'm asking you. And also during this celebration, Jorge and Corey's like one of like the two henchmen of Charlie that we met. Like you could just kind of tell that he's also a leader in the group. And he's telling Jorge like, man, this just tastes so much better this time. And Jorge's like, this time? And he's like, yeah, we've traveled a few spots, but for some reason this place just feels like home. And so that kind of on the heels of the last episode where Charlie tells Ish like, I'm not leaving. I think I might want to stay here just a little while longer. Jorge doesn't know that was said, but for us, the audience, we're kind of like building these connections on like, okay, how much do the people in Charlie's group know about Charlie's intentions for this place? And so that's kind of like a little bit of a puzzle piece right there. Well, Ish is just, he not having it. Like I already told y'all, like Emma was like, you doing the most, and Ish was like, listen, trust me. And so everybody's just buying into the charm, and they're like chanting. Alex is so bought into Charlie, it's insane. And this is just on the heels of him feeling neglect. So if your middle child suffering from middle child syndrome is feeling like you're not paying them any attention, they're going to seek attention somewhere else. So Ish is just kind of watching all this, and he walks away like, because I can't watch this. And then you see Charlie give Silas a look, and Silas was playing like the bongos, and then he stops. So Ish is just looking over the balcony and just looking out and just thinking and having a moment to himself when he hears someone scream. As he rounds the corner, he sees Silas is guarding the shed door, and Charlie comes out adjusting his pants. And they have some words with one another, and Ish ends up running down because at this point words don't matter. He needs to figure out what the hell is going on because this is not looking good at all. And he finds that Evie was assaulted by Charlie. So he takes her to Molly. All the adults are there, and Ish is like, look, he ain't got no intentions of leaving. I don't know what he's gonna do. He just did this and basically looked me in my face and was just like, what are you gonna do about it? And Emma is vocalizing that she should have believed him and she should have told the others what he felt. And Jean was there also co-signing Ish too. And Ish is like, okay, that's all good. Like, you don't need to blame yourself. We're seeing his true colors now. And Emma is just like, no, I should have done something. I should have said something because maybe we could have prevented this. And Evie, she doesn't speak all the time, but Evie is she's calling herself stupid, and she's having a trauma response because it's just been so long since Evie has been in this situation. Maurine is a mess because, they both were in this situation, and it was kind of like their shared bond and in a way to even get Evie to even commune and allow herself to even open up to the rest of them in the community. And so, of course, Evie's in this mental cycle of victim blaming when it's really Charlie's fault. And at this juncture, the adults are like, okay, what are we gonna do about it? And I want to say Jorge mentioned a prison or something. They're just throwing out ideas, and Ezra's like, okay, we build a prison for one, then we might as well all be in a prison because it's just gonna be this display of something, and that's not the community that we wanted to build. And so they're going up with all these ideas, and Emma's just like, listen, he is a virus, he is a disease, and there's only one way to get rid of it before it comes back, because if we set him loose, he will come back. We have to kill him. And so everybody's like, whoa, but it's crazy because this is literally where we were going. Like, y'all can't just be sitting up here talking about, we got to do something and we have to stop him. But then when Emma is like, okay, kill him, then y'all want to be like, oh, well, no, we mean to stop as in, but then you don't have any other ideas. Jen is like, look, if it was my kids that he did this to, absolutely kill him. I'm in. And so Ezra's like, let's just do a private vote. And what I loved about Ish and what I love in this moment is that Ish is like, no, we're not about to hide behind anonymity. This is our decision. We are San Lupo. We are the wolf pack. I may lead and Emma may protect, but we are all in this together. You will stand behind your conviction and all of us will be on one accord when we move together. There will not be 3 against 4 or whatever. We're not doing that because that breeds resentment. And then you end up having somebody feeling like, well, y'all made this decision without me. And now there's like internal dissension and there's just no unity and there's no community anymore. So I really, really love this because in a lot of post-apocalyptic shows and you have to make a hard decision, everybody want to vote. Sometimes it's not like a democracy. And then even with them voting per se, a lot of people want to do it like anonymously. No, because what people end up doing, and we see this in real life, they'll look at you in your face and be like, yeah, I'm on your side. And then they'll write down something else. And it's just like, no, we're not doing that. We are family. This is our place. We will decide what to do. Now, the person responsible for carrying it out, cool. Maybe I will bear the weight of that, or maybe Emma will bear the weight of that, or maybe Jean, because Jean was about it. But the decision will be us as a group. And so it's decided. So they pull up outside of Charlie's van. Ish knocks on the door and it is very clear Ish has a weapon in his hand, and Charlie's like, oh, okay, you got bigger balls than I thought you did. And he's like doing all this stuff. He goes on this whole thing about like San Lupo. So he's giving this little speech, this little monologue, and smoking his cigarette because he's the big dog on campus. He got the biggest dick in town. He can do and say whatever he wants. And he's like, you know, it's funny that this is the name of this place. You must be the saint and I must be the wolf. And I'm just sitting here like, this is really arrogant of you to say or to think that they named this place and you just so happen to come in and are the wolf. That's not what that means. It means everything that I just explained to y'all. And maybe y'all didn't put it together, but I just explained this to y'all. It's a welcoming community, and it's a community that lent you its hand, that fed you, that clothed you, that bathed you. And you think that it's a community of idiots because you don't see weapons laying around. You see them being happy. You see them expanding their families. And so you think that the name is appropriate for you to take over because you think that wolves are just these predatory and I don't want to say dangerous because they can be, but again, he knows what San Lupo means, but he doesn't know really what wolves are about, because if you knew what wolves are about, you would have strategized a little bit differently. So he's going all around this and he's quoting Bible verses and the meek shall inherit the earth, and he says, but you know what that really means? It means that the weak will die and be buried in the earth. So at this point, the rest of San Lupo pulls up. They got their weapons. And he's like, oh, you brought your whole family to a knife fight. And he's going on and on and on. And it's just like, bro, are you done? Because we came to ask you to leave. Like, so, like, what's up? And Charlie's like, I'm not going anywhere. And y'all, I knew he had it in him, but I didn't know he had that beast up in him, okay? Ish literally cracked him across his smug face with this sledgehammer. I don't know, it's like if a regular hammer and a sledgehammer had a baby. That's what it looked like. And in front of the adults, he beats Charlie to death. Whew, yikes. Jorge was the main person that wasn't really down for it, but like Ish said, we all have to make the decision even if it doesn't feel good. So he was there and he was standing by Ish, and they're there as a group, as the protectors of their young, of their cubs, y'all. I I just love wolves so much. And I also just read this fanfic that incorporated wolf culture and wolf breeding into like a romantic fanfic. I won't say which one. I won't say which one. But so I even learned just recently in my life like a little bit more about wolves. And they're a family oriented bunch. And the way that Charlie was kind of rolling around, it was like it's weird. So Ish and San Lupo, they're wolves. Charlie tried to liken himself to being the wolf, but really you're just a lion, because the way lions and the leader of the pride get their power is by killing the other leader. The rest just follow blindly. There's no commitment behind their loyalty. It's compliance behind their loyalty. Whereas in wolf culture, they are committed to the pack, and they are committed to their loyalty, and they're committed to the bottom line. So it was just really funny and a nice foreshadowing of Charlie's death, because you were misplaced, and if you were more well read, then you probably would have seen this coming. Anyway, you know, the members of San Lupo, they're not, you know, monsters. There is regret that comes with taking a life, another human being's life. And Ish is struggling bad. I mean, he's scrubbing himself, he's scrubbing everything, just trying to get it all off. And Emma's trying to reassure him and just let him know, like, there was no other choice for us to make. And sometimes we have to make those hard choices, but you're not going through this alone. And I am with you every step of the way. We are all with you every step of the way. You're the one who swung the hammer, but we all killed him. Like, and in this support, you know, Emma is very supportive of him, always. Even when she disagrees, she still supports him. But this is kind of tough because they all have to reconcile something within themselves before they can fully be there for the other person. Joey ends up coming in and seeing Ish at this point, you know, blood free, but you know, he's still scrubbing the rest, and you know, he's like, okay, look, let's just get back in bed, couldn't sleep, yada yada yada. And Joey's looking a little peckish, and he a little worried, but you know, it is what it is. He and his father are close, and now it's just not the time to even be talking to no kids about a single thing. So the next day, it looks like Perry slept in the house. Why would Perry be in the house? Well, when Charlie came back to the van, looking how he did, she knew what was up. And if you remember when I said, when Emma asked him what was next, and she looked at she looked at Charlie and was just like, well, it's what he decides. So she knew his intentions and what he's capable of. And it looks like she just decided to sleep in the house. So all the ladies and Ezra come in. She's waking up from the couch, and they're like, hey girl, made you some coffee. And Perry's like, okay, well, let me go see if Charlie wants some coffee. You know, thank y'all for letting me stay up in here. I'll fold these sheets and these blankets. And they're like, Charlie won't be needing coffee today. And she's like, well, like, does he want tea? Like, I don't know. They were like, well, he won't be needing anything ever. And they are trying to break this in a way that's not as insensitive as being like, Charlie did. And so, but she's still like, well, I don't understand. And Molly is like, I think you do understand. And so Perry finally stops pretending like she don't know the man that she showed up with. And something that she should be worried about is what is going to happen to me, like what's going to happen to the rest of us. And Jean is like, look, Charlie was a problem. You knew Charlie was the problem, and it seemed like you were afraid of him, and we took care of the problem, and he's not here anymore. the community is open to the rest of y'all as long as you don't cause no problems. And in my mind, I'm like, two things. I like that the adults of San Lupo are so close that Jean can make a statement like this when Ish and Emma aren't in the room. This shows a level of trust and a level of autonomy in their decision making. And so just even in this moment, and Jean of all people vocalizing this as a leader and letting this girl know, like, no, you're safe here and we will give you a home here. This really shows you the depth of their family. I feel like the words family and community are just not even sufficient enough to describe what this is. Like, quick sidebar into polyamory. A lot of people these days bring up polyamory in a way where it's definitely specific to maybe one partner who wants to sleep around, but they want to do it guilt-free. And so, but they don't want to say they want to do an open relationship. They want to put it under the guise of polyamory so they can bring their person around. But most times, at least people of this time of the 21st century, it's for selfish reasons and it's very one-sided. And it oftentimes is a unilateral decision and you're looking for the other person, or like the person with the least amount of esteem in the relationship, to just go along with it. Okay. What I think of polyamory is exactly what I'm seeing in Earth Abides. If you just break down the words poly and amor, it's literally just like multiple love, right? It doesn't implicitly imply or even explicitly imply a sexual relationship. It's literally, there's a bunch of us who chose to go into a loving relationship with one another, whatever that love looks like, for the betterment of our community and the betterment of us. And everything that we do is to serve the relationship, not to serve us as selfish beings, but to serve the relationship. So we have Molly, Ezra, and Jean. They made a commitment to each other when we first met them. All three of them are Rafe's parents. All three of them are baby Olivia's parents, and they are all committed to one another. Jorge and Maurine came into the community with Ish and Emma. But the way Jorge and Maurine live and the way that they helped raise all of them kids, they are in a polyamorous communal relationship with one another, and the goal is their community. The goal are the children. The goal is their education. The goal is the advancement of civilization, starting with us. And if we meet other people along the way, we can bring them in and we can create a better world. So in that, you really get to see like a communal amorous relationship amongst all of them, where they share equally the load, and they share leadership, and they share responsibility, and they share consequence. And maybe it's just me looking too deep, but in this scene I was just like, Jean was somebody who wasn't even speaking for real. She was so lost within herself and so depressed. And so to see her in this way, it just really shows you that the relationship that they are in with one another, some sexual with just their sexual partner, but the relationship that all of the adults in with one another is a healthy, solid, built, foundational relationship. And I love it. In this same thing though, I was like, what about Silas? What about the guy that was guarding the door? Like, are we opening this up to him too? Well, next scene literally answered that question for me. Emma pulls up to the backyard. Everybody's getting up, coming outside. You know, the people that tends to the gardens tend to the garden. The kids are outside playing. Everybody's doing what they normally do on a regular basis. Corey and Silas walk up and they're like, where's Charlie? And Emma's like, you ain't gotta worry about Charlie, like, he gone. And Silas like, well, that's unlike Charlie, like, he has plans here. He's not just gonna up and leave. And Emma pulls her gun and was like, I said he gone. So, you can be gone too, or we can just move on with this day like we would normally. Silas looked at Corey, Corey looked at Silas, and Corey was like, listen, I like it here. I like the people here. Charlie was on one, and honestly, I wasn't even really rocking with the way that he was moving. So I'm about to go over here and pull water from the well. You got it, buddy. And Silas is like, bro, what? So Silas turns around and he's all defiant and everything like that. And Jorge comes around. And, you know, everybody's coming around, like, with their weapons. And at this point, it's like, bro, it ain't safe. It ain't safe. It ain't safe. It ain't safe for you. Because in this moment, you chose the way of Charlie. So now you got to go. Like, you are not welcome in our home anymore. And in bad bitchery mode, Emma got the gun with just one hand at her waist. Like, my sis knows how to handle a weapon. I love it so much. I just love when Emma gets the chance to come out and just play and just be a badass. Like, even when Ish was beating Charlie, you know, Jean and Ezra and Maurine kind of looked on, like, satisfied. Jorge looked sick, but Emma was like, oh, we're making another baby tonight. She was like, that's my man, my man, my man. When he comes down from this, I'm giving him another baby. Like, that's how she looks. She is just very proud of what they have. And when she gets that moment to sit in it, her facial acting is just so elite. Like I said, Ish will lead them, but she is at the back of that pack guarding them. And when push comes to shove, baby, she is going to do the things. She is not afraid. And I love that so much. So much. Jessica Francis Mama Dukes, aptly named. I love you so much. It's just a facial acting for me. Like, it's crazy. So they move him right on up out the fence. Okay, and you know, he driving off, he all mad, whatever, cool, fine, whatever, blah 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 blah. And who was it? Alex comes up and he's like, Dad, where's Charlie? And he was like, look, Charlie is gone. And Alex is like, how gone are we talking? And it's just like that type of gone. And like I said, Alex was getting real close with Charlie. Honestly, he just wants some attention, and it don't even really matter who it comes from. But he's upset. We got these middle child / teenage emotions, and he's like, that's not what you taught me in school. And it's just like, oh, I'm trying to be sympathetic to the kids. And it is Ish's fault. But like, this ain't the time, bro. This ain't the time. And so Alex storms off, and we hear the truck come back. So now guns is drawing, because like, what you want? You want the smoke? So Silas gets out and he's like, I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have anyone. Like, please, 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 let me just have one more chance. Oh, baby, give me one more chance to show you that I love you. And Ish was like, sir, what part of no do you not understand? And Silas tries to appeal to, you know, Ish's humane side, or I won't even say humane because everything he's done has been humane. I think he just tries to appeal to his softer side. And he's like, look, Charlie did that to all of us. How do you think we're all here? And Ish is like, okay, he did that to y'all, and that sucks. But what they got to do with the price of rice in China, and what does that have to do with you guarding him while he assaulted our child? And Silas ain't got no words for that. And, you know, he's begging, he's pleading. He even takes his knife off his hip, kicks it underneath the fence. And he's like, look, I like working here. I will do whatever I need to do to prove myself to y'all. I just don't want to be on this road alone. I don't want to be in this world alone. And Ish looks at him And he kicks it back and he says, you're gonna need this while you're out there. And I love this so much. So much. Hate to keep making Walking Dead comparisons, but I'm going to. In The Walking Dead, there were so many times in so many seasons where people who were just downright evil and undeserving of chances, undeserving to live, were giving chance after chance after chance, from Rick and Michonne and them, from Aleksandra, from all of these other places. And it's just like, bro, they showed you exactly who they are in them. If you do not, or if you do not make them pay the consequences of their actions, regardless of what compelled them to go there in the first place, they will continue to come back. Now, in this case, Charlie did the deed. Boom, we cutting off the head of the snake right then and there. We're not about to lock you up. We're not about to send you on your way so then you can go round up and find other people that's like you to come back and take over our place, okay? The other person, yeah, we feel bad that he took over your old community or wherever that you were from, but you chose to continue to perpetuate his violence and thus became an accessory to that same violence. So I don't know what you're gonna do, but you can't stay here. And I hope while you're on this lonely road that you make decisions to where you are no longer a villain in somebody else's lives. Because up in here, up in this community, baby, it is not safe for you. You are the monster. So hopefully take your little knife, take your van, hope you got enough gas, hope you got a tube or something so you can siphon enough gas to continue on your merry way. And hopefully you can be the hero in somebody else's story, but you're not about to have no fairy tale ending up in here. And I loved that so much. And apparently the community did too, because here we are in year 20. It's been 3 years after Charlie was killed and everything settled. And you really do get to see, like, Ish and Emma are so fair and firm and demanding. They're not going to rule with an iron fist, but they will let you know that there are consequences to the things that you do. And what leads that is them through their own actions, and I'm sure through their words. There's years, gaps in here, conversations that we don't see, but we don't have to be monsters. It doesn't have to be you take this from somebody else. We can all share it. And if you look at the state of the world now, somebody will say Asian rights, and then you got somebody else say, well, what about ours? Black lives matter. Well, what about the other lives? It's like, in the world that we live in now, it's like one culture or one group decides to uplift and celebrate themselves, and everybody else is just like, oh, well, no, I don't want that, because then it means that we can't celebrate ourselves. It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my fucking life. So in this space, you can really just see that Ish and Emma lead with the world that we came from before said that we can't all have. The top 1% have, and the rest of us have to fight each other over scraps. We're not doing that here. What are you good at? And we are going to use that. What aren't you good at? And let's pair you with somebody that's good in it so that you can understand and bridge the gap of your differences so that you can find that you are similar. We're not asking everybody in here to be besties, but if we're all going to be mature about it, and I say this all the time, maturity is knowing that you can get along with anybody, even if you may not be best friends with them on a personal level. Immaturity is walking into a place and being like, oh, I don't like how they look. I don't like how they roll their eyes, or I didn't like their tone in their voice. And then taking that and then treating people in a way that shows your personal feelings. No, there's no room for that here. You may not be besties with Perry. You may not be besties with Abdullah. You may not be besties with Ish. You may not even like Ish. But the goal is to be mature enough and serve the community, serve the future, which are the children that are growing up in this space, and show these children that they do not have to fight one another, that they can use their smarts, they can use their ingenious to share and continue to build. And with that, we see that in Joey. Joey has been working on building something to help them scour like the rest of the earth and find other resources and to be able to build and even find other people to bring into the community so they can continue to expand. And our young Joey, I think at this point is at least 13, 14, has built like an airplane contraption that you can like ride your bike on. It's really given like the first airplane that was ever built, but on the wings, which I think is very genius, is solar panels. So that way this contraption doesn't have to rely on jet fuel in the middle of air. It'll stay charged the entire time. This is the future that Ish and Emma dreamt of the moment they found out Emma was pregnant. And it's coming to life in these kids. So you can tell that through continuing to read to them and continuing to expand and explore their own imaginations, you have a 14-year-old building a plane that's solar powered. We don't even have that now. Like, what? And I'm not saying that nobody's working on this, and I'm sure the weight and all this other stuff, but I'm just saying, you know, this in this make-believe world, this is what we want to see. And so there's this huge celebration, but it wouldn't be a celebration without something kind of tainting it a little bit, because all this praise is on Joey and Alex is in the back just watching from a distance, watching his father praise Joey. And something that we don't see is we don't really know Emma's relationship to Alex, because Alex is not putting his anger towards his mother or any other adult at that. He's putting his anger directly towards Ish. Okay? So Ish at this point, I think even as a viewer, we finally get to sit and be like, okay, Ish, you are clearly showing favorites and it's a problem. Like, I don't know how many other ways Alex can tell you and show you that this is a problem, but you're gonna need to fix it, because now your own son may be the start of dissension within your own community, and it will be your fault. But everybody's just in bliss, and Ish is reading to Joey at night like he always does, and Joey's looking a little feverish, you know, looking unwell, and Ish goes downstairs and he's talking to Emma, and she's like, okay, which one of them is, like, which one of the kids are sick? Because at this point they refer to all the kids as like the kids. Yes, they have their own, but which one of the kids is sick? And, you know, he's just getting his stuff. He's like, oh, Joey's just feeling a little feverish, you know, nothing crazy. So they're asleep that night when Joey comes into their room and he's calling out for his mom, and you can see that he's short of breath and he passes out and collapses on the floor. So they are freaking out. Ish goes to the infirmary, where we now see that there's other people in there kind of with these similar symptoms, and Molly's letting him know, look, this looks like the return of that flu strand that wiped out everybody from our other community, and it is moving faster than that. And Ish just kind of freaked out because he's like, I think Joey has it. So she's like, okay, bring him in here. You need to be putting on a mask. Y'all need to be like washing your hands, whatever. He's like, no, I'm gonna stay there with him. And I'm just like, Ish, you're literally about to disobey doctor's orders. Like, you're making this about you and not about the safety of everybody else that even sleeps in that household. So he disobeys Molly, and you get Perry walking in. Corey is already in there. I mean, the fever is just crazy. It's just going crazy. So Ish goes back to the house after grabbing some supplies. Emma goes over to Maurine's place, and she's like, hey, we need a hand in the infirmary. Like, Joey is sick. Other people are walking in getting sick. Like, we just need some people. And Evie comes up, and Emma's like, no, you know, I need you to stay. And Evie, through the words that she's speaking, she tells her, like, no, like, I want to help. So Evie, Emma, Jean, Maurine, Molly, all in the infirmary, just trying to do their best to treat the symptoms. We're going through medication very fast. Nothing is working, and there's no two flu strains that are alike. So one thing that Molly even mentions is that people who lived through this before are now suffering from it again. And this scene kind of reminded me of COVID, because there's some people who got COVID and it was like they were asymptomatic the first time, but then when they got it again, it like took them down. And unfortunately, in a lot of these situations, even for them, they don't have a lab to test anything or to be able to come up with like what do you call it, like a flu shot or anything, like to fight the infection. So it's really like, is the body and the white blood cells going to do their job? And it's a question of how many people are we going to lose. And Ish is up there with Joey doing what he can, pissing me, medical, off, because why are you kissing your son's sweaty forehead, putting his bodily fluids that have the infection to your lips and into an orifice, sir? Then you gonna what? Kiss your wife? Like, what are we doing? We're taking the whole town. Like, we're gonna take the whole family down. Oh my goodness, pissing me off. So he tucks Joey in. I'm sorry, that just it pissed me off. When you be like touching stuff and you touch your eyes or your nose or your mouth, like, oh my God, okay, let me stop. Anyways, he's tucking Joey in when he sees Ghost Charlie tucking Joey in too. And you know, now he's like in his head and stuff like that. So Emma comes back and Ish is just brooding, you know, like a man can. And Emma asked him, do you think that this flu is the reason Heather and Rafe haven't come back yet? And for the first time, you really get to see them worry in a way that is actually scary. It's not like, oh, maybe they just got caught up in the adventure. It's like, what if they are not here? And he doesn't want to think about it. So, you know, he's walking off or whatever. The next day, it seems that Ish came back and, you know, watched Joey. Like, Ish, above all things, is a father. And we've known this since Heather was born. He was getting up at night, everything he wanted to tend to. And Emma comes in and she wakes him up. And they have a conversation. And they're just stuck, right? What do we do? Well, later on in the day, Emma ends up coming back into the room because Ish has not left. Like, he is not leaving his son's side. And in walks Heather. She comes in, she's talking to her father, and he's like, you know, where's Rafe? And she's like, it's just me. It's been me by myself for so long. And she's looking at Joey, and she goes over to Joey, and Ish is like, he's sick. I don't want you to get sick. And she's like, I don't care. Like, this is my baby brother. I'm gonna go see him. So she goes and lays on the bed next to him, and Ish is like, you know, maybe what Alex needs is to see Joey needs is to see his sister. But I'm thinking about Alex because I'm just like, does Alex know that his sister is back? Like, Alex was very hurt and emotional when Heather left. That was his only solace. And so while Ish is paying all his attention to the youngest of the family, he at least had his big sister to tend to. But she was gone, and in her absence, he realized he was alone. But in this scene, Ish doesn't even mention Alex at all. And Emma just says maybe what Joey needed, you know, she said, you know, maybe what Joey needed was his big sister. And Ish is like, that's the problem. You know, I don't know what he needs anymore, and I used to be able to. Like, what? So for the first time, Ish welcomes toxic masculinity, pride and arrogance into his headspace in a way where it's just like, what does this have to do with you? How would you know what he needs, sir? It's a freaking disease, like, that's out here. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And Emma questions going after him, but like, no, she stays there with her kids because her daughter is back. Like, hello. And in the hallway, Alex is like, is everything gonna be okay? And Ish is like, well, yeah, I think so. He just needs to rest. And Alex is like, well, what if it was me? And then he walks off. Because I'm wondering the same thing. Would you be doing all of this if it was Alex? Now, I'm not gonna say that he not, because he loves his kids. But the neglect is here, the arrogance is here, the ego is here, the pride is here, and the toxic masculinity is all here in Ish. So much so, he drives out. So we're back to like wild Ish now. If you remember in episode 1, he's doing donuts and shit because he's in his own mind and he's trapped. So we're doing the same thing, but he's driving like a madman. He goes to the bridge, cuts through the wire, and he has his bike in a backpack, and he's just like racing into the city. A whole bunch of thoughts going through his head. And the thoughts that's going through my head is, does Emma know where you at? Because I'm sure she don't. And the last time you went outside, you got lost, my guy. So he ends up pulling up on the hospital. Everything is like covered in trees. Nature is doing its thing. And he's going through every room, panicking, trying to find any medical supplies, anything. I think he finds some saline somewhere. He's just literally panicking because he feels like he has to do something. I'm not a man. I'm not a father. I'm not a leader of the pack if I don't do anything. And when he busts into a room, and it ends up being a church. He's atheist. But in this moment, in the silence of it all, where you only hear his heavy breathing and him being confronted with an image of Jesus Christ on the cross, he walks up, and for the first time in this man's life, he starts openly saying some prayers to the Lord. And I really like this scene, not because I feel like it was like be religious. I don't think there was anything beating anybody in the head, but I think at some point in anybody's life, whether you believe in God or whether you don't, even people who believe in God have moments where they turn their back because they don't understand, and then they're put in a place where they come back with the questions of why. And one of the things that Ish says in his voiceover, and I actually wrote this down because I think this is really going to start Ish's journey into letting go of control and trusting that sometimes the universe just has plans that you're not privy of. And that's whether he in the next episode becomes a man of faith or not. Right now he believes in nothing but himself and things that are tangible to him. But now he's seeing someone he loves slip away. He's seeing the community slip away by an unknown thing, an unseeing thing. And I thought that it was very good and juxtaposed that he cannot battle something that he cannot see. And therefore, in this moment of panic, he ends up saying a prayer to that of which he cannot see either. And so he says, I have spent a lifetime focusing on the what and how and when and where, that I almost never ask why. And I'm finally asking, why are we here? So there's that. Season 1, episode 5 of Earth Abides, titled The Return. I love the title of this episode because it was a return of a couple of things. The return of the flu and the return of Heather. And unfortunately, Rafe was not there. And right now there's just too much stuff going on. So we can't really like bring up Rafe, but I want to know what happened. I want to know how Jean, Ezra, and Molly, but specifically Jean, move through grief and through the loss of their son. This is a community at San Lupo that is so big on the kids and family, and up until this point they haven't lost. But one of the things that Ish voices and that he thinks in his head, and you don't really know who it applies to, but I'm wondering if it applies to Rafe, where he says, I took a life, and now it seems that life is demanding something from us in return. Is he thinking about Rafe in that moment because Rafe did not come back? Is he thinking about the potential loss of Joey? Is he thinking about the loss of other people in the community? You don't really know his thought process behind it because it's so chaotic and it's so erratic. But that is something that I'm thinking about, and I'm really curious to see if they will time jump in the finale and kind of gloss over it, or if we will sit in the today of things and see like what this flu is doing, and or maybe even get glimpses of Heather and Rafe, what they were doing during that time. Maybe we go back in time to year 17 and have like a half a journey of Heather and Rafe and what happened to her showing up to this flu and how we're getting through those things. That is something that I would genuinely love to see. Other than that, I think that I really enjoy the flow of these episodes. I love the pacing. I do think that episodes 1 and 2 should have been released together, but I definitely understand why episodes 4 and 5 were released together, because 4 was the setup episode leading into 5 of what happened, but so were episodes 1 and 2. But that's just my personal opinion. It is what it is. I understand MGM, you're trying to get all your stuff out before December 31st, because I do think that there are a lot of elements of the show that are worthy of awards. So I don't know if you're doing it for award season, but I do know when the cutoff to be eligible for award season is. And so I'm rooting for you. I love the cinematography. I love the title. When they're doing the opening credits, I love what all of that looks like. The writing is phenomenal. Production design is insane. I think makeup is doing a really good job at aging people in a way that's not like super duper drastic. The way that some other shows do, they love to just plaster on a whole bunch of gray ass hair and like hella crow's feet and stuff like that. But I think we're doing a really good job at aging people in the way that they would actually look in real life, so that the characters still look like themselves. And I love that by the time we got to year 20, the kids were the same. Like, thank God. I was like, I can't do no more kid swaps. One thing that I did not mention at the beginning of this episode that I do want to mention are the people who wrote and directed episode 5. So episode 5, Teleplay, was by Karen Janszen, and the director was Stephen S. Campinelli. And we had an addition to the cast in Corey and Silas as being more of like main players this episode. Corey is played by Howie Lai, and Silas is played by Andres Joseph. And I don't remember if I mentioned the actress that plays Perry for episode 4, and the actress that plays Perry is Victoria Morgan. And with that, y'all already know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment in the comment box below. If you have people who only like to listen to podcasts, go ahead and share the Spotify link as well as the Apple Podcast link, and head on over to Instagram because I'm posting a lot of different things. I have a lot of stuff coming up for award season as well, and you can find out about other shows that I'm watching or other shows that are coming out on the horizon that I don't necessarily talk about on the podcast. And that's So There's That podcast over on Instagram. And you can always find me talking mess, interacting with producers, co-stars, other writers, and just other people on the internet on Twitter at Kivanchi, as well as at Kivanchi on Blue Sky. And with that, I will catch y'all in the next episode.